Music was supposed to be universal, reaching every heart regardless of circumstance. But on the evening of June 15, 1979, at Madison Square Garden in New York, Bob Marley would discover that sometimes the most powerful performances happen when you stop performing for the crowd and start singing for just one person. When Bob spotted 11-year-old Maria Santos in the front row, a girl who had never walked, never danced, but had never stopped believing in the power of music to set her spirit free, he would prove that the greatest stages are the ones where everyone belongs. If you love discovering the untold stories behind music history's most incredible moments, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell because we uncover the hidden gems that shape the legends we know today. Madison Square Garden, June 15, 1979, 8:45 p.m. The legendary venue was packed with 20,000 Bob Marley fans. But in the front row, Section A, Seat 12, sat someone who had been dreaming of this moment longer than most. Maria Santos was 11 years old and had been born with spina bifida, a condition that left her unable to use her legs. She had been in a wheelchair her entire life, but Maria had never let that define her spirit. What defined Maria was her absolute love for music, and specifically, her devotion to Bob Marley's songs. Maria's mother, Carmen, had played Bob's music throughout her pregnancy, believing that music could somehow reach her unborn daughter. When Maria was born with her condition, Carmen continued playing Bob's songs during the difficult early years, through surgeries, physical therapy sessions, and the countless challenges that came with raising a child with disabilities. By age 6, Maria knew every Bob Marley song by heart. By 8, she was singing them with such passion and soul that her family was amazed. By 11, Maria had convinced her mother that seeing Bob Marley live wasn't just a dream, it was a necessity. Carmen had saved for 2 years to afford front-row tickets. She'd worked extra shifts at the hospital where she worked as a nursing assistant, putting aside every spare dollar. She knew that Maria's view might be limited by her wheelchair and the standing crowd around her, but she was determined to get her daughter as close as possible to her musical hero. That evening, Carmen had carefully positioned Maria's wheelchair at the absolute front of Section A. Maria wore her favorite yellow dress and a Bob Marley t-shirt, her long black hair braided with yellow and green ribbons, the colors of Jamaica that had become sacred to her. As Bob and the Wailers took the stage, the crowd erupted and immediately stood up. Within seconds, Maria's view was completely blocked by a wall of standing bodies. She couldn't see Bob at all. Carmen watched her daughter's face fall with disappointment. All that saving, all that planning, and Maria couldn't even see the stage. "Mama," Maria said, tugging on her mother's sleeve. "I can't see him." Carmen looked around desperately. Everyone around them was standing, dancing, completely absorbed in the music. She couldn't ask an entire section to sit down, but her heart was breaking for her daughter. "It's okay, baby," Carmen said, fighting back tears. "You can still hear the music." "But I wanted to see him sing," Maria said, her own tears starting to flow. "I've imagined this for so long." 3 songs into the set, Bob was performing "Get Up, Stand Up" when something caught his eye. During a brief moment when the stage lights swept across the front row, he saw a little girl in a wheelchair crying, unable to see over the crowd. Bob had always been deeply aware of his audience, but something about this particular moment struck him powerfully. Here was a child who clearly loved music, but was being excluded from fully experiencing it simply because of her physical situation. Without missing a beat in the song, Bob walked to the edge of the stage and looked directly down at Maria. Even through her tears, she immediately recognized that Bob Marley was looking at her. Bob gestured to his security team and pointed toward Maria. Then he held up his hand to signal them to wait. As the song ended, Bob stepped to his microphone. "Before we continue," Bob said to the crowd, "I need everyone in the front sections to help me with something." The crowd quieted, curious about what Bob wanted. There's a little sister down here who can't see the stage because everyone is standing, and music is for everyone. No matter how tall you are, no matter how you get around, no matter what challenges you face." Bob pointed directly at Maria. "That beautiful little girl in the yellow dress. She came here to see music tonight, and I want to make sure she can see everything." The crowd began looking around, and when they spotted Maria in her wheelchair, surrounded by standing adults, a wave of understanding and sympathy rippled through the audience. "So here's what we're going to do," Bob continued. "I'm going to invite our little sister up here on stage with me, because the best seat in the house should go to someone who loves music the most." The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. Carmen looked at Maria in shock. "Did he just—" Maria whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. Two security guards approached them. "Ma'am, Bob wants to invite your daughter on stage. Would that be okay?" Carmen looked at Maria, who was crying again, but now with joy instead of disappointment. "Can you carry me up there?" Maria asked the security guard. "My wheelchair is too heavy for the stairs." "We'll figure it out," the guard said gently. What happened next was something Madison Square Garden had never seen before. Instead of using the side stairs, Bob's crew set up a small platform that could be lifted hydraulically. Maria, still in her wheelchair, was carefully secured and lifted directly up to the stage level. As Maria's wheelchair rose above the crowd, 20,000 people began cheering and applauding. She was literally flying above the audience, ascending to the stage where her musical hero waited for her. When Maria reached the stage, Bob walked over to greet her personally. "Hello, little sister," Bob said, kneeling beside her wheelchair. "What's your name?" "Maria," she said, barely able to speak through her excitement and tears. "Maria, that's a beautiful name. How long have you been listening to my music?" "Since I was born. My mama played your songs for me when I was still in her belly." Bob smiled and looked toward Carmen in the audience. "Your mama has good taste in music." Bob stood and addressed the crowd again. "This is my friend Maria. She's going to help me with the next song. Maria, do you know 3 Little Birds?" Maria nodded enthusiastically. "Perfect. Will you sing it with me?" Bob positioned Maria's wheelchair next to his microphone stand and adjusted the microphone so she could reach it. "Before we start," Bob said to the crowd, "I want everyone to understand something. Maria can't walk with her legs, but her spirit dances better than all of us. And tonight, we're all going to dance with her spirit." Bob began playing the opening chords to 3 Little Birds, and when he reached the first verse, he gestured for Maria to join him. What happened next was pure magic. Maria's voice, young, clear, and filled with absolute joy, blended perfectly with Bob's. She knew every word, every rhythm, every nuance of the song. "Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be all right." As Maria sang, something beautiful happened in the audience. Instead of the usual jumping and dancing, the crowd began swaying gently together, creating a wave of unified movement that Maria could see and be part of from her position on stage. "Rise up this morning, smiled with the risin' sun, 3 little birds, pitch by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true." Maria's voice grew stronger with each verse. She wasn't just singing, she was performing, connecting with the audience, sharing her joy in a way that transcended her physical limitations. Bob was amazed by Maria's natural stage presence and her obvious musical talent. This wasn't just a sick child getting a special moment. This was a real musician who happened to be 11 years old and in a wheelchair. During the instrumental break, Bob leaned down to Maria. "You have a gift," he told her. "Not just your voice, but your spirit. Music lives in your heart." "Music is the only way I can really dance," Maria replied, and her words hit Bob like lightning. When the song ended, the standing ovation lasted nearly 5 minutes. People were crying, cheering, calling out, "Maria! Maria!" The little girl who had been hidden behind the crowd was now the center of 20,000 people's attention and love. Bob wasn't finished. "Maria, do you know One Love?" "That's my favorite song," Maria said. "Then let's give these people something they'll never forget." For the next song, Bob did something unprecedented. He stepped back and let Maria take the lead vocals while he provided harmony and guitar. For 4 minutes, an 11-year-old girl in a wheelchair was the headliner at Madison Square Garden. Maria sang with confidence, passion, and a maturity that belied her years. She had clearly dreamed of this moment countless times, and she was making the most of it. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right. Hear the children crying. One love. Hear the children crying. One heart. Say and give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel all right. As Maria sang about children crying, every person in that arena understood that this was about more than music. This was about inclusion, about seeing ability instead of disability, about recognizing that the human spirit can soar regardless of physical limitations. When the song ended, Bob made an announcement that surprised everyone, including Maria. "Friends, I want you to meet Maria Santos, and I want you to remember her name. This young lady is not just my guest tonight. She's a musician, a real musician. And I have a feeling we're going to be hearing a lot more from her." Bob turned to Maria. "Maria, would you like to stay up here for the rest of the show?" Maria looked toward her mother in the crowd, who was crying and nodding enthusiastically. "Can I really?" "You can do anything, little sister. Tonight, this stage belongs to both of us." For the remaining hour of the concert, Maria remained on stage. Sometimes she sang along, sometimes she just listened and swayed to the music. But most importantly, she was fully included, fully visible, fully part of the experience. The crowd's energy was different that night. There was something gentler, more unified, more conscious about the way everyone moved and sang together. Maria's presence had transformed not just her own experience, but everyone's. After the show, Bob spent nearly an hour talking with Maria and her family backstage. He was genuinely interested in Maria's story, her dreams, and her musical development. "Maria," Bob said before they left, "I want you to promise me something. Promise me you'll keep making music. Promise me you won't let anyone tell you what you can't do." "I promise," Maria said, "and I promise you something too. This isn't the last time you'll be on a stage. Music needs voices like yours." Bob was true to his word. He stayed in touch with Maria's family, and when he returned to New York 6 months later, he arranged for Maria to open for him at a smaller venue. She performed 3 songs from her wheelchair, accompanied by local musicians Bob had arranged. That performance led to more opportunities. Music industry professionals who had heard about the Madison Square Garden moment came to see what this young girl could do. By age 15, Maria had recorded her first album, a collection of Bob Marley covers and original songs about overcoming challenges and finding strength through music. Maria never walked, but she never stopped dancing either. Her career as a musician flourished throughout the 1980s and 90s. She became an advocate for accessibility in music venues and an inspiration for other young people with disabilities who dreamed of performing. When Bob Marley died in 1981, Maria performed at his New York memorial service. She sang "Three Little Birds" from her wheelchair, her voice now mature and powerful, filling the cathedral with the same magic that had filled Madison Square Garden 2 years earlier. In her speech that day, Maria said, "Bob taught me that music has no barriers, no limitations, no restrictions. Music doesn't care if you can walk or not. Music only cares if you can feel, if you can love, if you can share your heart with others." Today, Maria Santos is 55 years old and still performing. She runs a music therapy program for children with disabilities and has helped hundreds of young people discover their own musical voices. Every June 15th, Maria returns to Madison Square Garden if there's a show happening. She sits in the front row, and venue staff always make sure she has a clear view. Many performers, when they learn about the tradition, dedicate songs to Maria and the memory of that magical night with Bob Marley. The Maria Santos Music Foundation provides instruments, lessons, and performance opportunities for children with disabilities. Their motto, taken from Bob's words that night, is simple: music lives in your heart. Madison Square Garden now has improved accessibility features, including designated wheelchair-accessible viewing areas that ensure no one has their view blocked. The venue credits Maria's story as part of the inspiration for these improvements. And in the venue's Hall of Fame, there's a photo from that night in 1979, Bob Marley and 11-year-old Maria Santos sharing a microphone, both singing with pure joy, proving that the most beautiful music happens when everyone is included.